All right, guys, got an amazing, huge, interactive episode here today. We're talking NFL MVP 2022. Who's it going to be? Who are the candidates? Why should this person be MVP? I take to social media. I'm going to read your opinions on who I think and you guys think are going to be the MVP. We're discussing, we're interacting. We're going to find out. We're going to crown the MVP before it happens here on this episode. So it's going to be ultra interactive. I'm going to lay out the stats for every player that is in the running to be an MVP this year. Is it going to be Pat Mahomes? Is it going to be Josh Allen? Could it be Travis Kelce? We're going to talk about it. We're going to break down the stats, and we're going to have an interactive discussion. Again, I just took to Instagram asking you guys who you think is going to be the MVP and why. And I'm going to read some of those out to you. And I want to, again, make this interactive. So drop a comment below. Let me know who you think is going to be the MVP and why. All right, let's break it down. Let's talk about it. Let's make it completely interactive. It's going to be a lot of fun here once we break down the stats and look into it. Again, we're talking 12 weeks in. So we're going to factor in the record. We're going to factor in some stats. We're going to factor in touchdowns. We're going to factor in personality, right? All the variables that make an MVP. And I know personality isn't as big of a factor, but we're going to talk about it right here, right now, right? But before I do, I've got two big announcements, all right? First and foremost, guys, the truckitlist.com. Players, real athletes giving back to the community. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. This is an amazing story. We got at Real Truck, right? They've teamed up with Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and Dak Prescott to give community heroes a real dream truck. This is absolutely amazing, guys. Here's a sneak peek of what to expect when you watch.
What happens with someone who spent their whole life
given to others, finally get something in return?
We're handing these keys over to you.
Oh my God.
Yes. So that we can make sure this is the story of unsung heroes,
Amazing trucks.
And dreams that come true.
I'm Dak Prescott.
I'm George Kittle.
I'm Travis Kelce.
And this is the Truckit List.
This is the Truckit List.
This is the Truckit List.
Is that enough about it? You trying to take it for a spin?
I'm ready.
Head on over to thetruckitlist.com or the Real Trucks bio on Instagram at Real Truck. Watch the last episode. It's coming out tomorrow, and there's 2 episodes that are already out. Amazing that these guys are giving back to community heroes and giving them and gifting them a dream truck. Thank you at Real Truck, and thank you to the amazing athletes that were involved in giving back to these community heroes. So make sure you guys check out the episodes, and the last episode comes out tomorrow. Do not miss it, all right? And secondly, guys, head on over to Hooters.com right now or download the app and save $10 on an order of 30 or more on takeout or delivery. They've currently got the football bundles. Amazing deals, guys, on amazing food. So order in, guys. World Cup's on. UFC's on every weekend pretty much. We got football Sunday night, Thursday nights, Monday games. Hooters.com, download the app. FFC20 is the code you want to use to save that $10 on an order of 30 or more on takeout or delivery. And upon checkout, add it to your cart, guys. I've got it here behind me, the Hooters calendar, guys. There's a reason I got it behind me. You definitely want to put this on your wall to keep track of those important dates throughout the year. Add it to the cart, guys. Check out the Hooters calendar. Upon checkout, add it to the cart. And when you're ordering and saving money on the food, make sure you guys grab your calendar, Hooters.com, or download the app right now. Takeout or delivery, guys. Go do it. All right, now let's talk about MVP. Let's get to business. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's talk about it again. Make it interactive below. Let's dive into this, all right? So, who are the candidates is the first question. Now, I'm going to take to social media. I'm going to read out your comments here. Who are the candidates? I'll give you guys who I think should be considered as an MVP candidate right now. And I don't care what the mainstream chiefs are saying. This is my research, and this is based on your opinion, based on social media and in the comments below. So it doesn't matter what the mainstream say because they have no idea what they're talking about. These are the guys that, when you're talking from fantasy football perspective, didn't even talk about Christian Watson. They didn't talk about Kenneth Walker. So they don't even know how to scout talent. So they have no business and authority picking MVPs. We do. We're the ones that are going to make the decision, and we're going to decide right here, right now. So the potential candidates we've got here. Now I'm going to go to social media as well and talk about it. But we got Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I got Tua. I got Geno Smith. I got Nick Chubb. I got possibly even Josh Jacobs as a consideration. Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, tight end, maybe even Travis Kelce. All right, am I missing anybody here? Like I said, Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. Oh, I have Burrow, maybe even. I've even got people saying Geno Smith. So those are some of the candidates. Now, the front runners based on odds right now, the leader statistically and odds-wise, when you're looking at odds, has to go to Pat Mahomes. He is the favorite right now. He's a minus 160 favorite at MVP. We got Jalen Hurts. We got Tua at 3 and Josh Allen at 4, followed by Burrow and Lamar Jackson even. Lamar Jackson, one of the favorites, top 6 going into this MVP candidate discussion. But who's going to be the MVP? Now, I just took to social media to get your responses. I'm going to read some of these out to you. Geno Smith for showing the people how bad Russ sucks. Okay, that's interesting. Geno Smith. People saying Mahomes. People saying, just got to refresh this, more coming in. Allen, the most overrated QB right now. Overrated, really. So people are saying Allen. Mahomes, simply the best player in the world. That's a good one here. I mean, everyone leading Mahomes. Oh, another one we didn't talk about, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, Justin Jefferson. He's been having some amazing games. He had a couple dud games, especially from a fantasy perspective. Kelsey, because he's godly at the position. The tight end hasn't won it before. I don't think tight ends just don't get the love. They really don't. It's all about quarterbacks. Even when I'm looking at these odds, when you're breaking it down, you're seeing quarterbacks as the top guys. And it's pretty obvious. Without quarterbacks, you can't lead the team. They're the ones that stand out statistically, historically, and all that. So, again, I'm looking at your comments here. And, again, I see all the usual suspects here that I mentioned prior to going into these comments. Again, Jalen Hurts, like I said, Hurts, Kelsey. I see a Tua in here. So, yeah, I get everybody's pretty much on board with what the consensus is saying as these candidates. So we've narrowed it down to that. Now, let's break it down a little bit farther here. When you look at Pat Mahomes and why he's favorite, I take a look at stats. Now, here's an interesting fact here. You're gonna be like, wow, okay, that makes sense. When you look at a fantasy point perspective, now, so many players hate fantasy. I hate fantasy. I don't care about fantasy football. I don't care about your fantasy team. Well, check this out. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow are your top 4 quarterbacks in, at fantasy amongst quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes with 280 points, Josh Allen at 277, Jalen Hurts at 270, and Joe Burrow at 244, followed by Lamar Jackson, who's also doing good and a candidate for MVP. So I'm looking at these stats, and they're directly proportional to reality. So because they're doing well in fantasy, which impacts their reality, which potentially makes them an MVP because they're putting up points. Yet players say, I hate fantasy. I don't care about your fantasy team. Well, you should, because as you see, it's directly proportional, right? Travis Kelce, number 1 tight end in fantasy, a potential MVP candidate, right? So a lot of people discount how important stats in fantasy are. Players do anyway when they're hating on fans saying perform. But in fact, you're seeing it right here. Pat Mahomes, number 1 quarterback and a top favorite as the MVP candidate. So let's talk about why Pat Mahomes is number 1 in regards to being a favorite. So the big thing here, and again, they really take a look at is obviously throwing touchdowns, passing touchdowns, 29 touchdowns. He's number 1 in passing touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. So that's a pretty good solid ratio. So he's on pace. At the pace he's going, he could have a 45 touchdown season, right? If we kind of average it out. Now, when we look at the yardage, number 1 in yardage, 3,585 passing yards. Okay, so that's another thing we look at. Second comes Allen, third comes Burrow, fourth Brady comes in there with 3,051. So something to consider there, obviously, is the passing yards and passing touchdowns. He's number 1 in both those categories. Another thing that I guess they factor in is obviously wins. They're winning. They're 9-2. They've got amazing winning record, and he's got a passer rating of 105.26, only second right now to, I believe, Jalen Hurts, who's got a 105.56. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, passer rating. Actually, I stand corrected. Passer rating as of right now, because he only played 1 game, is Mike White with 149.26. But he only had 1 game where he threw 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That doesn't really count. But you can't really factor in passer rating because you got to be talking about everything in consideration. But when we're talking about on the season, it's still a solid passer rating, 105.26 for Mahomes. So he's leading in pretty much every category. Now, the guy that I'm really liking is Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts is actually leading in other categories, which I really, really like. Now, here's the interesting thing. Rushing touchdowns, 8. That puts him, guys, 6th amongst running backs in rushing touchdowns. Like, absolutely phenomenal. 127 attempts, rushing attempts, right? 597 rushing yards. Only second to Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields in rushing yards. So he's got a winning record, by the way, 10-1. Jalen Hurts, 10-1. And again, you got to understand that a lot of people in the comments I just read, they want the underdog. I want the underdog. You know, Mahomes already won MVP. I'm rooting for Jalen Hurts, but he's getting it done. Where he's lacking in the passing yards and the passing touchdowns, because he's still not bad in regards to that ratio as well. But where he's lacking, he's making up in other areas, which is rushing. So again, not the greatest in passing yards. 15th at passing yards, 2,560. And his touchdowns aren't bad. 17-3, right? 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So the ratio is really good. The problem is he's not getting the passing yards and the touchdowns that Mahomes is getting. So you got to take a look at that as well. Again, 10-1 record for Hurts, 9-2 for Mahomes. So these guys are the front runners in my opinion. Now, I think it's literally between these guys, predicated on how the end of the season goes and if they continue winning and where they increase. Maybe Hurts starts going on a touchdown spree and gets more touchdowns. I don't know. But as long as that record maintains winning and it's pretty significant the way it is, these guys are the front runners, the leaders of the pack. And I really like Jalen Hurts. I think he's the new face of the NFL. I like his personality. I like his mentality. I like it. I feel he's got kind of that Michael Jordan type mentality to him. I love the fact that he can rush. I like his elusiveness. I mean, Mahomes got all those as well. Again, I'm torn. Again, I'm just rooting for the dog. Josh Allen also doing well in all categories, including fantasy, second in fantasy points. But when you look at it from a passing yards perspective, number 2, 3,183. Again, this is 12 weeks in, 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So now you've got him second in passing touchdowns, tied with Joe Burrow, 12 weeks into the season, 11 touchdowns. Not as good of a ratio as Pat Mahomes, 29-8. But you still got amazing performance out of Josh Allen, who's also 8-3, tied in his division with Tua, who's in consideration as well. So we've got Allen and Tua, same division, both 8-3. Tua's doing well as well, doing good as well. He's got some good weapons. Tua's kind of expected. 14th in passing yards. His touchdowns are 19-3. Not a bad ratio, not that high. He's getting some rushing done, not as much as like a Jalen Hurts, 19 attempts. He doesn't get a lot of rushing, to be honest, Tua. You think that, a young quarterback dynamic, he'd run more. He's just not running more, right? Mostly, even Matt Ryan is running, right? You've got guys that are stepping it up, the new quarterback, he has evolved. He's rushing more. I see Justin Herbert rushing more. Joe Burrow tries to get on the ground with 48 attempts. Tua, not so much, but I don't think he really needs to. He's got the weapons, right? He's got some amazing weapons. So I'd like to see Tua run more to kind of compensate his 14th in passing yards. So that's where I think Tua's lacking. I'd like to see more rushing out of him. We're getting it out of Allen. We're getting it out of, other guys. We're not getting it out of Tua, which I think kind of hinders him. So again, let's have a discussion here. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Tua. People saying Geno Smith, the 6-5 record doesn't really excite me, although you could say he has a worse team. And he's doing pretty well considering being thrown in and kind of being an underdog. But I don't think, predicated on the way the other guys I mentioned are playing, it's very hard for him to succeed and be kind of that guy that's going to surpass a Pat Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. Now, Bengals are 7-4, tied in their division here with the Ravens, and Burrow's been doing well. The stats are showing it with Joe Burrow, 3,160 yards, third in that category, second in touchdowns, 23-8. He's getting it done. And he's doing it with an injured Jamar Chase, which is also very impressive. So Joe Burrow, I think I like more than Tua if I had to choose when I'm looking at quarterback and I'm looking at overall performance, right? And his passer rating, 101.72 compared to Tua. Tua's got a good passer rating as well, higher than the others, 115.7. So, again, it's tough. Higher pass rating, Tua, lower yards. So I'm looking at these guys. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Now, we got to talk about some running backs here real quick before we make a decision here. I mean, I'm looking at Austin Eckler having a great fantasy season, 7 touchdowns on the ground, 554 yards. He's lacking in the rushing yards. I think rushing yards play a heavy aspect when you're looking at a complete running back. I don't think Eckler is that complete running back, whereas you got Saquon just under 1,000. You got Jacobs, Henry, and Nick Chubb all over 1,000 yards on the ground. 12 touchdowns, Nick Chubb, 10 touchdowns, Derrick Henry, 9 touchdowns, Josh Jacobs. Saquon Barkley also making a case for himself with 7 rushing touchdowns. I think you got to take a look at that. You got to take a look at how many yards on the ground are they pounding through. A guy like Eckler just not doing it on the ground, hasn't even cracked 600. I think that's going to take him out of that contention. That's why there's Nick Chubb in the conversation. That's why Derrick Henry's in the conversation. So running back is a position that's, very, very hard on the body. These guys, I don't think they get paid lately they have been getting paid, but they don't get the credit that they deserve. And I really think that they do deserve that. And again, Jacobs contract year, Saquon contract year, making a case, right? They're both top 4 rushers, right? Saquon 4th, Josh Jacobs number 1 in rushing with 1157. So you got to take a look at these guys are in a contract year. They're performing. They're making a name. But are they good enough to surpass a Pat Mahomes, a Josh Allen, a Jalen Hurts as a potential MVP? Because that's the discussion we're having here, right? I look at tight end here. You could make a case for Travis Kelce, who's having a 12-touchdown season, 912 yards receiving. Amazing year, 238.7 fantasy points. Could Travis Kelce be an MVP candidate? Again, I don't think that the strength of his numbers compares to what Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are doing on the field. And that's the problem. And that's why quarterbacks are the people that are getting the most attention. So again, I want to have this discussion. I want to talk about it. I want to get your feedback. It's very important. Your feedback, means a lot. Drop it in the comments below. Who is the winner? I'm going to announce the winner right now. In my opinion, again, I'd like to get your opinion, but I really want your opinion on who the MVP is. I know a lot of people, lean Mahomes. I'm gonna give you guys mine. All right. Now, again, you're gonna say, "Well, Joe, it's biased. You own his sports cards. You're a believer of him." I know. I know. A little biased because I'm invested in the sports cards because you can get his cards a lot cheaper than a Mahomes card. And again, it's a little biased, but again, at the end of the day, I'm being honest too. I'm laying out the statistics, and I don't think it's a reach either. But I'm going with my winner here, Jalen Hurts. Like I said, I like the personality. I like the mentality. I know Mahomes got all these things too. I get it. But Jalen Hurts is bringing a team that wasn't expected to do as well as they're supposed to. So, again, it's kind of a little bit of that underdog story. He didn't really get in the groove last year, has really turned it up this year. He's getting it done, across the board. He's getting it done with the rushing and the passing. I know the passing isn't as sexy as a Pat Mahomes, right? But he's still getting it done. I think he's more balanced, and I like the ability that, the elusiveness, the ability to run, the ability to rush. He does it all. And I like the 10-1 record. It's very appealing to me. Again, it's not that different from 9-2, and we're splitting hairs here, but I just like the underdog, and I like the fact that he hasn't won the MVP before, whereas Pat Mahomes has. He's been in the light. There's been talk at the face of NFL, blah, blah, blah. I think that Jalen Hurts could be the face of the NFL. I like the fact that he's the underdog. I like that. I still think that there's more ceiling left. What we've seen ceiling-wise for Pat Mahomes, I think we've seen. I still think there's more juice in the tank out of Hurts that hasn't been really realized. I think there's more there. So I'm going to go here with Jalen Hurts as my potential MVP winner for this year. Again, drop it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Am I completely wrong? Am I delusional here? Is Pat Mahomes a clear-cut winner? Love to get your feedback. Can Josh Allen start stepping it up even more from the 8-3 record? Make a strong finish to the end. Is Joe Burrow in consideration as well, in your opinion? Could he be the winner? How about Tua, or maybe even Geno Smith? Could he emerge if the Seahawks make a huge playoff run and maybe win their division and win and make it to the Super Bowl? Who knows, right? But love to get your feedback here, guys. Or maybe a Kelce. What about a Kelce? Could he? I mean, I don't think the stats are there to compare to these quarterbacks. But again, comments below. Let me know who you think is the MVP winner. Again, we're 12 weeks in. We might have to address this again a little bit later on, but love to get your feedback and hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown here. All right. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe. Fantasy football advice and NFL news and notes and discussions like this. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Thumbs up. It helps the channel, and drop your comments below. Who is the MVP for fantasy football? Actually, NFL football. I'm so used to saying fantasy. NFL football 2022. We'll talk soon, guys. Comments below. I'm out.